Another battle the state of Israel is fighting these days is the arena of foreign press coverage. The so-called greatest example so far was that of the Gaza hospital bombing, which the foreign press quickly blamed Israel for until the IDF proved it was a misfired Islamic Jihad rocket. And joining us now is Middle East correspondent Jotam Confino. Jotam, we're witnessing hundreds of foreign journalists in Israel these days covering the situation, also witnessing the Hamas atrocities firsthand. What are the reactions you're hearing? How is Israel really perceived in the world?
I would say in the first couple of days, there was a lot of intense coverage on the Israeli side about covering the Hamas atrocities, really getting all of those stories out. Without a doubt, that was the main priority for all media. The first 3 days, I would say. But it took a turn the day that Israel cut off electricity and water and everything when they basically held Gaza at a siege again. That's when things started to turn, because immediately when you do that, there will be humanitarian consequences in Gaza. And the minute Israel starts bombing, focus shifts, because when Israel basically eliminated all of the Hamas terrorists on the Israeli side and they regained control, the casualties, the deaths that we began to see was in Gaza. And that's where all the media started focusing their attention, because you want the latest, the news hook, what is happening, what is the latest thing. So in a way, it naturally shifted. But I think for many journalists, it was also frustrating that such a big atrocity was committed so recently, just a few days ago, and still you barely got any questions about it. It was just 90% about humanitarian disaster in Gaza. And I think for people abroad, I think it's hard for them to understand why it's important to keep telling what happened in Israel, because the story is no longer about the atrocities in Israel, it's about humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. But it is important because it gives context. It gives context to people to understand why Israel is bombarding. And this is not my opinion. I'm not here to say whether Israel is doing the right thing or the bad thing. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do with explaining to people the context so they understand why there is a war in Gaza. It doesn't come out of the blue.
Of course, it's impossible to understand this shift. Now, as part of these efforts, Israel Monday screened for foreign journalists. You've been there, Yotam, the raw, the unedited footage of October 7 massacre as captured by its death squad's body cams. Does the point come across? Is the country, the IDF, doing a really good job in really showing what we've been through here?
I think the raw footage that we saw left such a huge impression on everybody in there. I can't imagine anyone sitting there watching what I saw thinking either this isn't true or I don't care. I think most of us knew that we've gotten to such an insane point in our coverage that there's been sown doubt about what's happening in Israel, what happened with the Hamas atrocities, that we need to see it ourselves. So I think the army and the government and the journalists, we all did the right thing. For once, our interests really aligned in the sense that us as journalists would like to report and make it as believable as possible. And the IDF and the government also want these photos, these videos, this evidence. They want it to go out to the world. Now, of course, the IDF and the government, they have a whole different kind of interest with exactly why they're doing this. They want sympathy from the world, whereas us journalists, we focus on just getting the facts out and making sure people know the facts. But yes, I do think that it left a huge impression on everyone. And it's also gotten a lot of coverage. I've been approached by many different media across the world after I tweeted about what I saw. And there's been a huge interest in simply hearing what we witnessed.
Yotam, we're witnessing a Holocaust denial-like phenomenon unfolding in real time. You know, for years, humanity could not understand how anyone could possibly deny the Holocaust. And now we're seeing many comments saying Israel is making up atrocities, Israel making up numbers. How in the world is this possible in 2023 when everything is documented, when everything's out there?
It's a very good question, but it really is part of a huge phenomenon called the idea of fake news. And it's not just related to Israel. most countries have experienced this. The Ukraine-Russia war is a very good example, with Russians refusing to believe what happened in Ukraine. And the same is happening now here in Israel and with the war in Gaza. I think social media and the way that you can manipulate photos and videos, which is possible. We do see artificial intelligence being able to manipulate photos and videos. That has made it has made it more difficult for us journalists to convince that whatever we send out to the public has been verified, because everyone can question it. Everyone can say, wait a minute, weren't you just fooled by artificial intelligence? It's a huge problem. It really is. And it also is a combination of that and a lack of trust in the media. Journalists, media, politicians are among the least trusted at all. So that's also a huge problem, that we're not very trusted in general. And when we have to convince people about atrocities, they are immediately very critical.
Jotam, thank you so much for joining us today, and keep up the great work you do.
Thank you.